Hey everybody, it's Ruby here today, and today I wanted to do more of a discussion vlog for you instead of my usual booktube videos. So I'm still gonna have booktube videos each week on the weekends, but I thought that if there was any sort of discussion videos I wanted to do or anything lifestyle, anything sort of extra to the booktube channel, I would just upload it during the day or during the weekday and be able to give you sort of extra information. So you don't have to pay attention to this if you're not at all interested in my experience regarding learning disabilities, but I had recently seen a video by Hank Green on his ADHD and sensory processing disorder, as well as another video on how to ADHD, which I'll link down below, both of which talk about the experiences of ADHD. And although I'm not at all surprised by Hank Green's admission to having ADHD or something related to that, I was a little bit surprised by the fact that I never thought of uploading my own video regarding it. I think part of it is just because I don't know, I don't really like talking about myself in ways that aren't relevant to the books that I'm talking about. I don't really see a point if it's not related to a particular channel. I don't see how that fits in. But for this particular case, I did see how much it impacted people in the comments and sort of what discussions it created. And I thought that that's actually a good thing, that I wanted to be a part of that discussion. So I thought that I would talk a little bit about the assessment and diagnosis that I had, and then some of the day-to-day experiences that I've had, and anything that I could do to help regarding that. So comment down below if you have a disability or think you might have a disability or your thoughts on it. I'm not going to discuss some of like the epidemic regarding ADHD because I think that it's its own topic, really. And I don't even know if I have ADHD. It is like an inattentive learning disability, never officially diagnosed as ADHD. So I'm not going to join that discussion as to whether or not I fit into the category of whether or not it's actually a thing. In terms of the assessment and diagnosis, I was first diagnosed when I was 12, and it was more of a dyslexia learning disability, although they did say I had inattention and some problems with some auditory processing disorders. So I actually was the one to push this particular assessment because I started to notice problems, and my mom was a teacher at the time in a different school, and she had a book lying out about dyslexia, and I don't know if she knew before I did about it, but I had been struggling in school, but in not every area. It was in only particular areas, and it was for particular reasons. And I was starting to recognize it, where I had this really frustrating experience of knowing where I needed to be and knowing what I needed to do, but not being able to physically do it. It was this weird sort of like intermediate sort of experience. It's almost like, you know, when you are lying in bed in the morning and you know you have to get up at like 7 o'clock, but it's 7:15 and you're still in bed on Facebook doing some Reddit, and you're just like, I gotta get up, and you don't get up. Like that was like my entire life. That was just like, it was like this feeling of like knowing I needed to do things and not being able to do them, or just physically not being able to do it. So I was assessed, and yeah, so I had like dyslexia or some sort of like learning disability. And my problems were related to, I was stuttering, I wasn't saying words properly, I would forget that I was saying a sentence in the middle of the sentence, I'd forget what people were saying, I would forget all of these things. I really couldn't read out loud very well. I actually had like a reading assessment where they had me reading out loud and then doing reading comprehension, and I was put into a grade lower than what I should have been until they discovered my marks, just because of the fact that I couldn't read out loud properly. So as you can tell, there was sort of a disconnect between what I could understand and what I could actually say or hear. So that turned out to be kind of like an auditory processing disorder. So I moved provinces, and when I moved to high school, I wanted to be reassessed. You couldn't use the same assessment because I guess, I don't know, there's no inter-province assessment abilities. I'm not really sure. And so they wanted to reassess me, and I was assessed by a psychologist, and they didn't have the official ADHD assessment tools, so they weren't able to properly say that I had ADHD, but they said that I probably had some sort of inattention learning disability, and that I had auditory processing problems, and that the main reason that I was diagnosed was because I had a discrepancy between like different measures. So I was doing okay at school, I could read well, I could write well, I could understand things well. It was literally just like, I would make weird mistakes in math. I would not remember digits when they were said to me, and I would like be really bad at grammar and stuff like that. So a lot of like inattention, and also auditory processing. And that's something that I discovered sort of on my own. So I didn't really understand it. It's not really in the general public, and it has to do with your inability to filter sounds. So I'll also link a podcast about it down below and things like that. But and a video on autism, because the main thing that people actually know about sensory processing disorders is that they are often in ADHD, but they're also often in autism, because you're not able to filter sounds. So when you see someone who has autism and they will scream or cover their ears or eyes or generally seem really stressed out, or even like children will do it sometimes, it's often because there's too much information going in at once. And that's actually a problem that I have as well. And like there's no way to describe it, and so many people rely on auditory problems or on like hearing things that they don't understand that I can't in the same sort of way. So like I don't really like music, or like certain kinds of music. I find it almost to be white noise. I can't process it in certain ways, and I can't like pick out noises, and I have to be in like dead silence when I do things. So that's sort of what my day-to-day stuff was as well. So I am a very disorganized person. I'm pretty messy. I've gotten better, but I'm pretty messy. My lockers always used to be really messy. I'd put something in my backpack and it would come out crumpled. I wouldn't pay attention in class. I wouldn't remember things in class. I just generally just seem to be super disorganized. I have really bad time management, and I have really bad like executive functioning, where I'll say I'll do something and then I'll just forget about it, or I won't do it, or I'll think that I have enough time and I don't. And so it almost sounds like laziness, honestly. Like if you were to not know that I had some sort of disability, you would think that I was just lazy. When I was 17 or 18, I started taking Concerta, which is basically Ritalin, and what it does is it just helps you with attention. It just helps with like, I think, your dopamine receptors, and it doesn't give me motivation, but it gives me the ability to sort of focus, to sit down and be like, okay, for the next hour you need to do this, and you need to do this now, and you need to have fun doing it. And so that just helps. And so I'll take brain breaks where I'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna take a break today, but if I need to do things, then I'll take it in the morning, and then I will just schedule my day and make sure that I am doing, the 5 or 6 things on my to-do list that I need to do. Because if I don't, it doesn't give you the motivation, it just gives you the attention. So I'll just like watch YouTube videos like all day if I don't have a reason to be doing something else. And then I talked about some of my experiences, and then so in university I really had to stay on top of my ADHD. I think in my second year I got a lot better at being able to manage it and to know what I needed help in. And the main thing was organization. So that's why I had an agenda, which I'll also link down below, and just generally keeping things like a to-do list, keeping like a weekly schedule and a monthly schedule and just like a long-term schedule, and just being able to like fill things in really helped me, because then I could take things like step by step, and that's easier to like bring things down to a very small level in order to actually do something, especially for someone who, has really big ideas and then, can't actually separate them into individual thoughts in the same sort of way probably other people can. And then, other things for sensory stuff. There isn't a lot of research or even a lot of tools regarding sensory stuff that isn't like for like autistic children. So I generally just study in silence. I don't listen to a lot of music, and people who know me know that I can't be interrupted, or else I won't remember what I'm saying, and that I can't really listen to music when I'm doing things. And if sounds like chewing or there's a microwave, it really bothers me. Like it actually will distract me, and it is really irritating. What's really interesting about the learning disability, and the reason I don't really talk about it a lot, is because I know a lot of people will think that I'm faking. I've been told that I've been subverting the system, that I'm just taking the drugs to get a step above everybody else, because people will see my grades, or they'll see how I do things, or they'll see sort of how I go about things, and they'll just assume that like I don't need anything. But the reason that I need things is to do those things. Like, if left to my own devices, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't have graduated university. I wouldn't have maybe even graduated high school. There's so much that was really helped by this diagnosis and this assessment. And I know a lot of people who weren't assessed until way later, and I think that that really impacted sort of their career choice and what they were left with doing. So if you think that you have a problem, if there's a frustration between sort of how you perceive things or how you go about things and how you actually like do things, and you can tell that there seems to be something missing or something blocking that, then I would definitely pursue it. So I'll link everything down below. I hope this was like an informative video and not too long and rambly. And just put your questions down below if there's anything that I didn't answer that you'd want to know about. Because I do explain it to a lot of people, I do know kind of what to talk about. But at the same time, it is a subjective experience. It is something that I don't know other people don't have. So it's not always easy to actually explain what exactly is going on in my brain. So if I've left anything out, if you have any questions, totally put them down below. If you have any experiences of your own, do the same and like it if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in a couple of days when I do the next booktube video. All right, talk to you later.